Luke Kromenhoek and Brock Glenn basically split time against Miami. How would you handle the final 4 games?
I'll tell you what. Again, wasn't surprised, kind of how we talked about it in the preview last Friday. They had, I think, Brock got the first 2 drives, and the third drive was Luke. And it was going to be maybe play the hot hand deal. It's either going to be 1 drive if he goes 3 and out. But sure enough, Luke comes out there, creates a spark. Gets out. I think it was 4th and 1, quarterback sneak, and he gets kind of in a big scrum, kind of like Jameis Winston was famous for doing. He kind of pops out on the other side, runs down almost for a touchdown. You end up getting your 1 touchdown on offense, outside of garbage time. That was really exciting. So I had no problem. Mike sends him out there for another few drives after that to try to play with the hot hand. And he made some throws, made some runs, but just I can't even remember a specific play. But there's just so many issues between penalties and, drop passes or miscommunication. Wide receiver just completely mistimes his jump. Just another one of those games. It wasn't kind of like the Duke game where you had 3 egregious drops you could point at. But, again, we're talking about the quarterback. But I feel like they put so much on these young guys. They're so afraid for like the running game to fail. We don't get enough carries for guys like Toafili. They're constantly switching the back. So every time you get a little momentum, you start to get a drive, there would be just a critical loss. There would be a bad snap or a mishandle of a handoff, and just never really got anything going. It was really tough, but I don't think it was anything Luke did. There's issues with calling blitzes, and he's a true freshman getting thrown out there. I think it's clear when you watch the tape that there's Brock Glenn running around, and then there's Luke running around. There's Brock throwing it, and then Luke throwing it. You can see the difference. I think currently, Brock, it's so hard to say he has a better chance to win. It really is an incredibly tough position that they're in, deciding which one to put out there. Brock is more comfortable and knows way more of the playbook. He's a little bit better out there operating. But you see the flashes with Luke. The struggle is, how far along is Luke? I think the answer to the question ultimately is you've already played him twice, so you play him in 2 more games. They've already announced they're going to start Brock. So we'll see how it goes in practice the rest of the year. It wouldn't surprise me to see them not play Luke the next 2 games and then start him the last 2 games. Will we see him this week? That's a very good question. What do you think? You didn't watch it. I don't know. He's 2 games into his red shirt. I don't see how I think Luke would do whatever Mike asked him, but I don't see how Mike can look at Luke and say, okay, we're going to burn your red shirt for you to come in against Charleston Southern on the 3rd drive of a game. So I don't know. If Luke can be ready to start by Charleston Southern, then I think there's a good chance they send him out there, give him a chance to start against Charleston Southern, and then start against Florida, against another freshman quarterback. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I would think that if we surveyed the fan base, that they would be looking for a transfer portal quarterback regardless, because we have yet to see anything that special out of either one of these guys. And there just seems to be more quarterbacks in the portal every year than there were the year before. So there's going to be a flood of them.
Look, this is going to be 40, 50 guys. Going to be one of those years between whatever you salvage of high school and portal, going to be up there 40, 50 guys. We've lost to probably 5 teams that you're listening to the broadcast. And, man, they brought in 50, 60 guys this year. It's going to be one of those things. Like, it just is what it is. In this era of football, you can go. It's not a slow drop or necessarily has to be a steady rise with the portal now. You can go from being bottom of the barrel to being a top 15 year over year. Florida State fans, the administration, everything, they saw Mike build one time from 3 to 5 to 10 to 13. He's safe. He's not getting fired. I'm not there yet. I still think that talk is way premature. The question is if it works out long term. He doesn't get 4 years, to build back to competing. He's going to have to 7-8 wins next year. That's what he has to go out there and do. But I think with the portal and with the kind of current level of the ACC, that can definitely be done. But there's going to have to be some major changes, and I guess that's the next conversation to have.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to gauge this team at this point. It's so late in the season, and they just played a team that's probably one of the 10 or 15 best teams in the country. But before that, they were, for as ugly as the offense has been, just roll through the games. They were basically one series away from winning. Georgia Tech, even the Boston College game, for as much as I thought they got outplayed and outclassed, and they eventually lost by 15, still 8-point game in the fourth quarter. You could run through all of them, Memphis, etc. And so, yeah, it doesn't take a lot. Now, it's not easy necessarily because everybody's out there trying to get better, but it's doable. It is
Take a
doable.
different mentality than anything he's ever done before. It's going to have to be different. They took a building brick by brick, and something I've said 100 times, like people act like you're comparing one portal class to another. No, Florida State in the draft, in the way of 9 players, lost the fruits of 5 portal recruiting classes. 1 before Mike even got there, and then the 4 preceding that, 20, 21, 22, 23. And it wasn't, I'm not saying that in hyperbole. You literally had 1 or 2 out of every class. You only had Jermaine Johnson and maybe one other guy that I'm missing that left early. The rest of the guys, it was all, Jerry and Jones, Fabian Lovett, guys that were 3, 4-year players. Jordan Travis, obviously, a 5-year player. And they all left riding the top of that 13-0 season, top of their draft stock. It was going to be that you can't blame them for what they did. But those guys left, and there was a little bit of, hubris shown on folks like myself, the coaching staff, obviously, all the way around. But it's like we were all looking at it. You can make the arguments on paper on the recruiting rankings. You got 13,000 snaps coming on offensive line, but you don't know. Some folks get to see practice. Some folks get to hear about it. You get to hear what Mike Norvell and the coaching staff and the people that you trust that are there tell you. And you were hearing strongest, fastest team. And yeah, hopes were great. You thought maybe it could drop to a 7-8 win team, but you're the favorites going into the year to win the ACC. So it's damning the level of misevaluation and just there's obviously, at the very least, I always forget this dang word. When you win and you get nonchalant with your preparation, there's a word I'm looking for there. Complacency. Once complacency sets in, it's a real problem. And just whether it was something that had to do with the snub or whatever, this team just all they were riding on, the recruiting staff and the coaching staff, was everything they built up on selling the program, climb, all that. You had, you were working on a top 5 possible class. At the time, I think you had like 13 commits and they were all blue chips, 2 or 3 5-stars. Everything was going great leading into the season. But now you've lost all of that. The extreme of this, it's just gone. So knowing the coaching staff, especially we'll stick to the offensive side, knowing that those guys aren't go-get-it recruiters, they're supposed to be quote-unquote developers and relationship sellers. And again, I don't even have to say names, but like you lost all 3 of your top wide receivers. You just lost your top tight end the other day. Like the writing is on the wall. So you just kind of look at the recruiting class and where the commits stick and where they're disappearing. Those guys know it, and they're still out there coaching wide receivers every week, tight ends every week, whoever the case may be that you think is going to leave, whether it's D-line or linebacker, et cetera, et cetera. You can name them all. Everybody's up for evaluation after this season. Before I forget, one of the questions a lot of people talk about is like, man, this don't even seem like the same Mike Norvell out here on the field in the press conferences. It's just not him. Well, I think part of that is his loyalty to his friends, wanting to be the bigger person. I think his gray hair and all his issues, and not playing the blame game here. Obviously, everything eventually comes on it, falls back on him. He's wearing the crown. So that's who takes the responsibility for it. I think he's extremely hurt by how this coaching staff and the players, the whole team kind of let him down, But he's not going to go on a press conference and say, well, Adam Fuller just can't get 11 freaking guys on the field. We've got all this going on and he can't even make sure 11 guys are on the field, or, whatever the case may be. We've got 13,000 snaps, but we got a different lineup every freaking series and offensive line, whatever the case may be and he's calling the plays. And, you got to be honest. If I'm him, if you're in his position and you put on this film every week and you see guys wide open, the quarterback just didn't look there, or, there's a wide open running hole and the running back just didn't go to the right place, or you've got the perfect play called against the defense. They've got no chance in hell of stopping it, but you snap it over their head. Then your long snapper stops snapping the ball. It's just one of those things. There's some really egregious spots that you can see, like where the recruiting or the coaching hasn't lined up, linebacker, wide receiver. But as a whole, I mean, it's all hands on deck. Everybody has made the mistakes, and he kind of alluded to it in his press conference. The Free the Youngins movement. Everybody look, we've done seen these seniors drop passes, miss blocks enough. Let's see the young guys at least make mistakes. Well, Mike kind of alluded it in his press conference today. Apparently, a lot of the older guys were out, the usual starters. Those young guys got an opportunity. Not making plays at all. To a degree that, if that apparently what he saw today, it's not enough to get him in the game again. So they got to be better. I think it's hard to get that X factor, get that motivation. I've never even experienced this. I've never seen a team like this to have kind of come back. They haven't quit. They're still showing emotion or whatever. But yeah, it's just changes coming on offense. So I don't know if they can get it together and make something happen before the end of the year, because it's unlike any other offense I've seen in that you got talent here and there, but even more so in like the Willie Taggart years, you saw it when they had some mental issues. It's like they just will not be successful because whatever you turn to in the offense, whatever facet you turn to, some unit of it will make a mistake. It's like, okay, you hand it to the runner back, he fumbles it. Well, daggone. Okay, well, quarterback throws a pick. Oh, man. And you throw it to the tight end, he drops it, and it's a pick six. And it's just some of that, again, as I said, the wide receivers has been consistently an issue in all year. But in these games, it's just all whatever the case may be. This game, it was 12 men on the field. It's real tough to watch. But yeah, the offense in this day and age, if you're going to have anything, have an offense. And it's really, really bad.